Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. I, 32 female, got married last year to the love of my life. Daniel, 35 male. We've been together for 7 years, and he has been my rock through everything, especially my fertility struggles. To explain why this is such a sensitive issue, I need to give some background. I was diagnosed with endometriosis at 24. It was painful, physically and emotionally. The constant cramps, heavy periods, fatigue, surgeries. It consumed so much of my 20s. And alongside that came the looming shadow of infertility. Multiple doctors told me conceiving naturally would be incredibly difficult, if not impossible. Daniel knew all of this when we started dating, and he never flinched. From day one, he said, "We'll figure it out. If we can't have children biologically, there are other paths to family." His support kept me sane in a world where everyone else seemed to measure a woman's worth by whether she could produce children. But that didn't make it easier when people, relatives, co-workers, even acquaintances would ask, "So when are you having kids?" Or, "Don't wait too long. Your clock is ticking." They had no idea how much those words cut me open. Over time, I developed strategies, smile politely, change the subject, sometimes lie and say, "Oh, maybe soon," just to shut them up. Still, deep inside, I carried the pain. My body had betrayed me, and the one thing society insists is essential to being a real woman. My wedding day was supposed to be my escape from all that. My one pure day of joy. The day wasn't about fertility, babies, or biology. It was about celebrating love and commitment with Daniel. We wanted laughter, dancing, good food, and nothing else. But my brother-in-law, Kevin, 34 male, decided otherwise. Kevin is married to my sister Laura, 30 female. He's always been, let's just say, self-righteous. He grew up in a very conservative religious household, and while Laura and I weren't raised that way, Kevin lives and breathes it. Every conversation with him eventually circles back to sin, purity, or God's punishment. He's the type to post Bible quotes about obedience while cheating in his college exams. For years, I tolerated him for Laura's sake. He wasn't just preachy, he was judgmental. At family dinners, he'd make passive-aggressive comments about my career lifestyle and how women are meant to be mothers first. Once, when he overheard me talking about fertility treatments, he said, "Well, maybe if you focused less on career and more on faith, God would bless your womb." I wanted to slap him, but I bit my tongue, for my sister. But on my wedding day, he crossed a line I'll never forgive. During the reception, after the toasts from my dad and maid of honor, Kevin stood up with a microphone. At first, I thought he was going to make a generic congratulatory speech. He smiled, thanked us for the invitation, said a few standard nice things about marriage. And then, he pivoted. He looked right at me and Daniel and said, in front of 150 guests, "Now that you're married in the eyes of God, maybe you'll finally be blessed with children. Marriage is the sacred bed for creating life. It's not meant for fornication before vows, and sometimes God withholds His blessings until we honor Him properly. So maybe now, as husband and wife, you'll finally be able to conceive. Children are the ultimate purpose of marriage, after all." The room went dead silent. My blood froze. My infertility, the most private, painful battle of my life, was now dinner table gossip, served on a platter in front of my entire family, Daniel's family, my co-workers, my college friends, everyone. Kevin wasn't done. He added, "I pray you'll be fruitful soon." For years it seemed like maybe something was wrong, but perhaps it was simply God's way of showing that sin has consequences. Now that you've done it the right way, maybe He'll open the door to parenthood. I couldn't breathe. I could feel every eye in the room burning into me. My infertility, my sins, my supposed punishment from God, all exposed in what was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. Daniel grabbed my hand under the table. His face was red with anger, but I could see he was holding back for my sake. Something in me snapped. Before Kevin could keep going, I stood up and said loudly, "Get out!" Kevin blinked, shocked. I repeated it, firmer, "Get out! You are not welcome here anymore." Gasps echoed across the room. Kevin stammered something about just speaking the truth. But Daniel stood up next to me and said, "Leave. Now." And Kevin left, muttering about being persecuted for his faith. Laura followed him out, glaring at me like I'd just destroyed her world. The rest of the reception was awkward, to say the least. Some people tried to lighten the mood, others whispered about what had just happened. But I couldn't fully enjoy the rest of the night. Kevin's words hung over me like a shadow. He had taken a sledgehammer to my most vulnerable wound and smashed it in front of everyone I loved. Afterward, my parents and several relatives told me I did the right thing. My mom said she'd never been so furious at someone in her life. My dad looked ready to fight Kevin in the parking lot. Even Daniel's family, who are more reserved, told me they supported my decision. Since then, Kevin has been completely cut off from family gatherings. My parents banned him from their house. My relatives avoid him like the plague. Daniel's family, who barely knew him, despise him now. But Laura? She's furious at me. She insists Kevin meant well, that he was just trying to bless us, that I misunderstood his heart. For the past year, she's been pressuring me to apologize to him so he can be welcomed back into the family. I refused, over and over. I told her Kevin humiliated me on my wedding day, that he knew my fertility struggles, that he used my pain as sermon material. Why should I apologize to the man who hurt me? Laura's response: "Because you embarrassed him by kicking him out in front of everyone. He was humiliated too. If you could just swallow your pride and say sorry, we could all move on." Swallow my pride. After Kevin broadcasted my infertility to 150 people and called it punishment for sin. Recently, Laura escalated. She told me she won't be keeping in touch with family until her husband is accepted back in after I apologize to him. She says I'm destroying family unity and robbing her children of their father's place in the family. They don't even have kids yet, mind you. She calls me selfish, unforgiving, bitter. And now some extended relatives are starting to murmur that maybe I should just apologize to keep the peace. That maybe I overreacted. That maybe Kevin didn't mean it that way. But I can't. I won't. He ruined my wedding. He humiliated me in the most personal, cruel way possible. I don't care if my silence costs me my relationship with Laura. So here I am. Am I the asshole for refusing to apologize to my brother-in-law, even if it means my sister blames me for breaking the family apart? OP is not the a-hole. My jaw dropped reading what Kevin said. This wasn't some awkward slip of the tongue. This was a premeditated, cruel attack. He knew about OP's fertility struggles. He knew how sensitive the topic was, and he weaponized it on the most important day of OP's life. And now Laura wants OP to apologize because his fragile ego can't handle the consequences of his actions. Absolutely not. If she wants him back in the family, she can live in a fantasy land with him. OP doesn't need to sacrifice her dignity for the comfort of the man who destroyed her wedding. OP needs to stand her ground. And now let's hear community's opinion. Not the a-hole. Honestly, I can't believe your sister is still defending him after what he did. Kevin humiliated you in front of 150 people, turned your wedding into a pulpit, and implied your infertility was punishment from God. That's not just disrespectful. That's psychological abuse. And let's be clear, you didn't break the family. Kevin did when he chose to tear you down publicly. Your sister is just angry because facing the truth about her husband would mean admitting she married a self-righteous bully. You owe him nothing, least of all an apology. You are absolutely not the a-hole. The gall of that man, to stand up at your wedding, grab a microphone, and sermonize about your reproductive system like it's some cautionary tale? I cannot even imagine the humiliation. What Kevin wanted was control, attention, and to use your pain as proof of his warped worldview. The family not inviting him anymore is the natural consequence of his own choices. If Laura wants to martyr herself for him, that's her decision. But she doesn't get to demand you sacrifice yourself again, just so he can be comfortable. You already sacrificed your peace once at your wedding. Don't do it again. Not the a-hole. And honestly, I don't think you realize how strong you were in that moment. A lot of people would have just sat there frozen while Kevin destroyed their dignity in front of everyone. You stood up and told him to get out. That took courage. Don't let anyone gaslight you into thinking you're the problem here. Kevin is toxic, plain and simple. Laura is enabling him because it's easier than facing the fact that her husband is hated by her entire family. If she chooses him over you, that's heartbreaking, but it's her choice. You don't need to apologize to a man who weaponized your infertility to make himself look righteous. Never.
I, 20 female, am currently going to college in another state that's 1.5-hour drive from where I grew up. So I live on campus, but also drive home sometimes. Before my parents were married, my dad bought the 4-bedroom house that we now live in. My mom moved in when they got married, and then they had me. My dad died of cancer when I was 14, and Mom and I continued to live in the house alone until she remarried when I was in high school to my stepfather, who then moved into the house with his 2 kids, 12 male and 14 male. Because there was 4 bedrooms in the house, no one had to share and there wasn't a problem. On my 18th birthday, my mom told me that in his will, my dad left half of his house and money to me, 50-50 split between me and my mom. So I actually am half owner of the house. Before my dad got sick, he helped me build a treehouse in the forest area that bordered the property, which is actually a bit of a distance from the house, and it has always been very special to me. When my stepfather and his kids moved in, I was always very clear that I didn't want anyone else in my treehouse because my dad built it for me. My mother respected this and told her new husband and his kids that it was my right. A few weeks ago, I came home from college on Easter and saw my stepbrothers in my treehouse, and I freaked out about it and told them they were not allowed in there. I tried to tell them to get out, but my stepfather said that I was being unreasonable. Since he was married to my mom, he's half owner of the property, and his children should be allowed to use it as they want. He started yelling how now that I'm in college, I don't even live at home and no longer need the treehouse. So why should his kids be denied having a fun place to play? I got really angry, and when my mom came back from her outing, she took my side and said they couldn't use it. I told her since I can no longer trust that my treehouse rule will be respected, as half owner of the house, I no longer gave permission for them to live there. My stepdad and stepbrothers called me an a-hole for doing this. My mom understood, but she didn't want to ruin her marriage. Edit. My mom isn't going to force me to sell our house, and she is not going to sell her half to me for money. Her will leaves me her half of our house already. That's not relevant. My mom has always thought of this house as my house because it was my dad's before he died, and I was his only child. To her, the house is rightfully mine. Edit 2. Instead of answering every comment on the location of the treehouse, the main house is at the front of a 1.1-acre plot of land. At the back left of the property is a 1/4 acre of trees that are part of a forest that extends beyond our land. My treehouse is on 2 of those trees inside the land we own. When I saw the deed, it had a survey of the land. So yes, the treehouse is on our land. No one else owns it. What I mean by bordering is that the forest borders the property, but the land plot includes some of the forest. My neighbors on the left also have land half covered in trees too. Not the a-hole. Everyone saying you're the a-hole for wanting to evict them is forgetting that the stepfather tried to claim he owned half the house, and you don't live there anymore. Your mother recognizes that her spouse is being an a-hole, trying to claim things that aren't his. They should move out. Not the a-hole. You were very clear from the get-go that this was a special place that's filled with your memories for you and your dad, and that you didn't want the kids in there. You're also half owner of this house. Him being married to your mom doesn't mean he's half owner, as this was an asset she acquired long before she ever met him, at least where I'm from. And even if he's right, that him being married to her means he owns half of what your mom has, that means he's only got 1/4 of rights to your half rights. Tell him that the treehouse is like a memorial for you, not a play area for his kids. Both you and your mom said no, and he and the kids just straight up disrespected you both simply because they don't agree. Well, it's not a house they own, it's not their property, and it sure as duck isn't their treehouse. Not the a-hole. The entitlement of your stepdad is gross. Saying they can't live there is going a little far, but at the same time, I also think that sometimes certain a-holes literally will not get things unless you take it to the extreme. Stepdad tried to pull that card first. You simply showed him that he's full of crap, and that you actually are the one who has the most control over the house. Also, I see that people are being like, it's just a treehouse, let them play there. No, that is a treasured, special place for you. You laid out boundaries right from the jump, which your mom also supported. And he's now trying to cross the boundaries and make you look like the a-hole. Your ducking stepbrothers can play elsewhere. Tell their bum dad to build them one if they need it so bad. Honestly, I'm gonna get downvoted, but everyone sucks here. They aren't guests. They live there, with permission from the other owner. You can't throw them out when you can't control their every move. I know Redditors have a thing against family. Are you willing to destroy your mother's happiness? I honestly think you aren't thinking of her. Do you want her to pick sides or something? She is half the owner, and she's actively living there whereas you are not. Sure, if you and your mother agree, then there's no problem. But you are literally gonna make your mother end up alone due to selfishness. A woman who already lost one husband. I'm assuming they are paying maintenance on the house while they are living there, and your mother obviously wants to live with them. Even a landlord should not get to control how people live in their home, as long as physical damage isn't being done. Don't get me wrong, I understand the treehouse is special. But treehouses are made to be played in, enjoyed. As long as they don't physically damage it and respect the space, and maybe stay out of it when you are there. What's the issue? Husband, 25 male, and I, 22 female, have been together for more than 9 years. We are both the first everything for the other, and despite being together for so long, we still love each other as when we were teenagers. And my brother, 34 male, doesn't understand that he thinks that at some point during those 9 years, I cheated on my husband, or he cheated on me, because there's no way that two people don't get bored of the other after so long. And being honest, yes, I know some people may get bored of their partners after a few years, but that's not our case. We have an amazing relationship. We love each other madly. We have the same goals. We respect each other. And S is awesome. And my whole family knows it because most of them always make fun of us because we were all the time kissing and telling each other I love you. And my brother thinks we are lying when we say I love you to each other, and he told us face to face. We were at our father's house, and my father, 55 male, started joking saying that he's ready to have grandchildren. And I told him that my husband and I are planning to have babies in a few years. And he said that he knows that my future children are going to be his only grandchildren because my brother hates kids and women who want something serious with him. When my dad said that, he, my brother, said that he's not afraid of serious relationships, but doesn't want to spend years pretending that he's in love with someone. I told him that it's about finding the right person, and that if that person is the one, love will never die, even if the two go through difficult times as a couple. He just laughed and told me to stop playing happy marriage, that it doesn't matter if you're the one, that after so many years of relationship, it's impossible not to get bored of the other and cheat on your partner. I asked him if he thought that I cheated on my husband, or if he cheated on me, and he said yes, that he thinks I cheated, and he cheated too. And there's no way that I've never cheated on my husband after so many years of relationship. I told him that if he thinks like that, it means that he's a jerk with his partners, and that he deserves to die alone, because no woman deserves to have to deal with an idiot like him. My father told me to shut up because I was being an a-hole, but I don't think I am. But anyway, am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Obviously, you could have handled it better, but no one, and I mean no one, should blame you. You found the love of your life. He enjoys having S and then leaving. Those are your decisions. And if he can't hear something back, then he shouldn't say that you cheated, period. Everyone sucks here. You've only been with one person, who you've dated since you were 13, and your brother is 10 years older than you and a serial cheater. Neither of you can really understand the other's point of view about dating, and shouldn't be giving advice to each other honestly. Your dad shouldn't have started this drama with this comment, and your brother sucks for cheating and saying he thinks you and your partner cheat on each other. But you took it too far in the end, and kind of come across as having a holier-than-thou attitude about dating, not even relating to the cheating as much as it is about being a perfect couple. Not the a-hole. Telling him what he deserves was a bit harsh, but so was him saying there's no way you and your husband haven't cheated on each other. It sounds like your brother is the type of person who needs an open relationship, which is totally acceptable for people who are open to that. There are plenty of women who are seeking open relationships. What I see wrong with this is that he seems to think everyone feels the same way he does, and that's just not the case with anything in life. He clearly crossed boundaries, and nobody knows your relationship like you and your husband do. He can't see your point of view because he doesn't view relationships the same way you do. And that's okay, because it's your relationship, not his. His opinion or speculations of your marriage mean absolutely nothing in the grand scheme of things. You two continue loving each other for the rest of your lives. Continue to have a happy and healthy marriage. One thing I've learned in life so far is that you can't change everyone's opinions, no matter how hurtful they can be. At the end of the day, his opinion on relationships should have no real effect on yours. It must be incredibly frustrating, and maybe you could in your own words explain that you can accept his view without agreeing with it, and leave it at that. If he won't leave you alone, you might need to separate yourselves from the situation for a while. It doesn't matter if he thinks you both cheat because you both know the truth, and you know the dynamic of your relationship better than anyone else. Just my opinion. My ex-wife and I divorced a few months ago, and she currently lives with her boyfriend, the guy she had an affair with, but that is a whole different story, and his daughter, who is the same age. Anyways, she took our daughter shopping for school supplies. I make significantly more money than her, and I'm happy to pay these costs as we share equal parenting time, and I don't want my daughter to go without something because of our new situation. My ex-wife asked me to reimburse the costs. She claimed the total came out to around $350. The price set off alarm bells in my head, so I told her I was happy to do so, provided she shows me a receipt for the items. This caused her to flip out, tell me no one keeps receipts, and that I was being an a-hole for demanding to see the receipt instead of trusting her. I decided to get a rough idea of what it should cost by pulling up all the supplies on Walmart, and the total came to around $215. Based upon this, I've concluded that she likely shopped for our daughter and her boyfriend's daughter at the same time. However, that's obviously just a hunch, and I have no realistic way of knowing that. She keeps asking me to reimburse her, and I'm holding pretty firm on my no receipt, no money stance. Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay for her school supplies without seeing a clear itemized receipt of what they bought and how many? Update 1. I texted her to inform her that we can go back to Walmart with her card and request a receipt. I then explained to her the discrepancy between the prices I found for the school-approved list by shopping online at Walmart versus the total cost for which she is assigning me accountability. This prompted a few angry texts, some insults, threats of returning to court, and the explanation that she needed extras so that she could have spares at her house in case a pencil bag broke, etc. This essentially confirmed for me that I ought not be paying the full $350, as at best, she is trying to get me to fund her own household costs. At worst, she concocted a story to swindle me into paying for boyfriend's kids' supplies. What I want to do? Tell her to pound sand and wish her the best in court, where she will have to explain why I owe her money when our divorce decree states any non-routine expenses related to the child's education or medical shall be shared jointly between Mr. Anon and Mrs. Anon. The party that paid for the expenses shall provide documentation of the expense to the other party for reimbursement. All reimbursements must be made as soon as practical and no later than 30 days after the expense was incurred. What I am going to do after I calm back down from her comments? Flip her $110 and call it a day. Not the a-hole. Asking for a receipt is a perfectly reasonable request, and how everything should be handled. Also, it's one of those things that tends to pop up in later hearings, that one day you may wish you had documented. Also, you did trust her. You trusted her not to let some other guy stick his hang down in her when she was married to you. That seemingly didn't work out too well. However, it should also be perfectly reasonable for you to pay $175 as your half, and ask that next time she simply provide receipts, which would coincidentally be perfectly in line with your real estimate of costs. Not the a-hole. Why would you trust someone that cheated on you? Not the a-hole. No receipt, no payment. She can take it out of her monthly child support check, or she can go back to the store and tell them she needs a receipt for a certain day. All she needs is the ATM, credit card she paid with. Most stores can give her a receipt right away because it's in their system. My wife's mother has a massive ego. Some examples include wearing what could have been a wedding gown to our wedding in a shade of pale blush. So bridal. Sulking when we got engaged because she wanted to get engaged despite not having anyone in mind. Announcing how beautiful her hair was at father-in-law's funeral. Demanding my wife's pregnancy not interfere with her destination wedding when she did get remarried, and sulking because our daughter was named after 2 other family members and not her. I see the effect it has on my wife. Father-in-law always pitted them against each other because he was gross, and she feels like she has always had to share, compete with her mom. I'm not okay with that. Recently, we had a photo shoot for our daughter's first birthday. Everyone was supposed to wear jeans and a white shirt, any white shirt, so mother-in-law could be somewhat fashionable. Mother-in-law made a whiny comment about how her husband doesn't own jeans, so now she has to go shopping. I flat out told her I wasn't aware his legs don't work. She looked confused, and I said he can go shopping himself. So in mother-in-law's mind, this photo shoot was off to a bad start. The day of, mother-in-law showed up wearing a white top and a blue floral skirt. The flowers were really small, so it would mostly blend in, but I was furious that she couldn't follow directions. I asked my wife if she was okay with it, and she said, "Oh, you know how she is." I went up to mother-in-law and asked what happened to the denim. Mother-in-law said she wanted to wear a skirt and doesn't like jean skirts, and she just feels more comfortable in skirts. She wears a lot of skirts and dresses, but isn't against wearing pants. This was also short and tight with a slit. So I guess I know why she felt so comfortable. I told her that she would not be able to participate in the pictures. She protested that it wasn't fair, as it was close enough, and her granddaughter's birthday. But I said too bad, so sad. Her husband stood up for her and said she just wasn't comfortable in plain jeans and a white shirt. But I ignored them, and we didn't let them in a single photo. Not the a-hole. You teach people how to treat you. Now she knows she can't just do whatever she wants when it comes to your family. I'm sure she also had time to tell you that she wanted to wear a skirt instead. She chose not to say anything and just rock up to the photo shoot as she wanted. She learned a lesson that day. Is this incredibly petty? Yes. Do I understand why you were being petty? Also yes. If I found myself in a similar situation with a similar backstory, I might not have done this. But at the very least, I'd have been sorely tempted. Or would have anticipated and not invited mother-in-law to the photo shoot in the first place. Unless this really upset your wife, I'm going with not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Narcissists are going to step on any boundary they know they can cross. It's up to you guys to decide how far you'll accept her behavior. The only thing making me lean towards everyone sucks here is that this will have ramifications on your wife and her relationship with her mom, regardless of you trying to protest her. You two need to have a serious conversation about boundaries and where you both are with them.